Today's episode of Variant is brought to you by Domain.com. Today on Variant, I give you the history of Toxin. Welcome to Variant, where we love comics more than I'm ecstatic that Surge is back and available on Amazon. I'm your host, Arris. Ever since I did a History of Carnage episode a few weeks back, a bunch of people in the comment section of that episode were saying they wanted me to do a History of Toxin. For example, you have this guy and him and this person and that person and a bunch of other people. So it's quite obvious you guys want this episode. So let's do this. Toxin is a fairly new character to the Marvel Universe, making his debut in Venom vs. Carnage issue 2 in 2004, and was created by Peter Milligan and Clayton Crane. With that said, this History of segment might be a little shorter than normal History of episodes, since he's only been around for 10 years, which isn't all that long for a comic book character. Like all symbiotes, Carnage became pregnant but felt only hate and fear for his new quote-unquote son, because of its potential to become stronger than him and Venom. Venom found out about Carnage's pregnancy, so he tracked him down to talk about his spawn. Carnage did not want to talk about the situation, which led to a fight with him and Venom. Carnage was ready to kill his powerful child as soon as it was born. But when Carnage did give birth, however, he was too weak to actually kill it. He would eventually give his symbiote spawn to a New York police officer, Patrick Mulligan, who, you guessed it, becomes the host for Toxin. Carnage hoped to destroy the symbiote later when he regained his strength. Like Carnage said, he attempted to kill Toxin again, but was prevented from doing so by Black Cat and later Venom. Venom wanted to train it to make it an ally against Spider-Man, and if he had to, Carnage. Venom fought Carnage and named the new symbiote Toxin because to other symbiotes he smells like poison and has tendrils like Carnage but has a body similar to Venom. After Carnage attacked Pat's wife and Spider-Man fended him off, Pat's wife started to go into labor and had a little boy named Edward Mulligan. Patrick left, realizing what a danger he would be to them if he stayed. Later in the story, Venom soon realizes that Toxin has a sense of morality by not killing Carnage when he could have. In realizing this, Venom tells his son Carnage that Toxin could likely become a good guy and ally himself with Spider-Man, which wouldn't be good for either of them. So Venom and Carnage team up to try to kill Toxin, but as I said in my History of Carnage episode, that's going to be really hard since Toxin has been said to be the most powerful of all the symbiotes. In the final battle between the three symbiotes, Spider-Man stumbled into the confrontation between the three symbiotes and helped Toxin. After they fended off Venom and Carnage, Toxin had a conversation with Spider-Man, filling him in on what happened to him. Spider-Man gave him a superhero heart-to-heart. Aww. Spidey's so nice, and passed on his Uncle Ben's message, with great power comes great responsibility. Toxin resigned himself to a life of battling his base symbiote urges to indulge in violence and destruction while trying to harness his power for good. Unlike Venom and Carnage, who embrace the power and give into the symbiotes they have, Patrick Mulligan is always having to keep Toxin under control. Also, because Toxin is still a child, Pat is trying to teach his symbiote how to be good. At one point in 2005, in a 6-issue limited series, trying to live with Toxin became too much for Mulligan, who attempted suicide by throwing himself in front of a train. The toxic symbiote intervened at the last moment, saving Mulligan, claiming that Mulligan didn't really want to die. When Mulligan pressed the issue, it became clear that unlike the Venom and Carnage symbiotes, Toxin is not sure if it could survive on its own and find a new host. In this limited series, Razor Fist murdered Mulligan's father, but Toxin begins to show signs of heroic behavior. He tracked down Razor Fist, but instead of killing him, Toxin controls himself and turns Razor Fist over to the police. Mulligan reconciled with his estranged wife Gina by introducing her to the Toxin symbiote as a way of explaining why he walked out on his family. Mulligan and the symbiote came to a peaceful agreement. Mulligan will be in complete control of the symbiote if he allows Toxin 2 hours of playtime each night. However, in those hours, Toxin is not allowed to commit any acts of grand theft, arson, rape, or homicide, which is completely reasonable, unless, you know, you're a weirdo. Patrick Mulligan is eventually beaten to death by Blackheart. Sometime later, Toxin is bonded with, wait for it, Eddie freaking Brock. Toxin then takes on a slightly different appearance, as you can currently see. He then declares he wants to kill Venom above all else. Now, I think this has been a pretty good summary of Toxin's history thus far, so let's talk about his powers. Like all symbiotes, Toxin possesses the powers of his parents, but to a greater degree. He can stick to walls, shapeshift, and also has unlimited webbing. He can camouflage to his environment, form solid weapons from his limbs like Carnage, and he has a healing factor like his predecessors. Unlike the others, Toxin can track anyone, not just other symbiotes, as long as he has something to pick up a scent. Also, he has the ability to hide in his host's bloodstream, which is gross, creepy, and awesome all mixed into one. But now you guys know what time it is, and that's time for some reading recommendations. You have Venom vs. Carnage, Toxin the Devil You Know, Venom Toxin with a Vengeance, and Deadpool vs. Carnage, which he's not really in all that much, but it's a good read nonetheless. As we all know, a few weeks back, Zack Snyder released a new official photo of the Batmobile due to tons of leaked photos that were coming out prior, which are actually still coming out. So being awesome, he tweeted, "Here's a real picture of the Batmobile." Ever since we got this new official photo and a crap ton of leaked ones, people have been asking me what I think. And what I think is, it looks freaking awesome. It's the perfect mix of brute force, so it's still practical, but at the same time, it still looks streamlined and sleek like a Batmobile is supposed to be. Which is what a lot of people's problem was with the Tumbler, saying it looked too much like a tank and boxy and not like a Batmobile, which I can see where they're coming from, but I still think the Tumbler was a cool design. But I think Zack Snyder hit the nail on the head with this Batmobile, finding the perfect middle ground of pure brute testosterone, but still having the nice aerodynamic sleekness to it. It honestly looks a lot like the Arkham Knight Batmobile, which is great because I love that design as well. Or you could even say it looks like a mix between the Tumbler and the Tim Burton Batmobile. Now I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent for a bit. A lot of people were complaining about the turrets, guns, cannons, whatever you want to call it, on the front end of the Batmobile, since Batman is known for not using guns, which makes no sense to me at all. Almost every single Batmobile ever has had some sort of gun, rocket launcher, or shooting device on it. The Tim Burton Batmobile had freaking machine guns that pop out of the front end. The Batpod, which is technically just part of the Tumbler, had rocket launchers or missile launchers on the front of it. The Arkham Knight Batmobile had a cannon, Vulcan gun, and missile barrage on the top of it. So why are people getting their panties in a bunch because of the turrets on the front end of this new Batmobile? I have no clue. All I know is this Batmobile looks extremely awesome, and I can't wait to see it tearing up the streets of Gotham on the big screen. When you buy a domain name from domain.com, you get the power to influence and control what people find when they search for you online. No domain extension will help you tell your story like a .com or .net domain name. Domain.com is affordable, reliable, and easy to use, and they also give you free comic books. They don't give you free comic books, but they're still awesome. The guys at domain.com gave Variants an awesome offer. Get 15% off domain.com's already affordable domain name and web hosting when you use the coupon code Variants at checkout. So when you think domain names, think domain.com. First up for Wednesday, September 24th is Edge of Spider-Verse issue 3. Keeping it short and simple, if you're a Spider-Man fan, read this comic. Here we have Superman Doomed issue 2. This is the finale to the epic crossover series, Superman Doomed. If you haven't read the storyline, I recommend going back and reading it. And finally, we have Batman Beyond Universe issue 14. This storyline expands more on the relationship between Bruce Wayne, Terry McGinnis, Amanda Waller, and the Phantasm. It's a must-read for any fan of the DC animated universe. Well, that brings another episode of Variant to a close, but remember, you can like our Variant Facebook page to keep up with the show and all things comic related. You can also follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/Arris_Quinones. But I will see your lovely faces next week when I what?
Talk about all things comics!
That. Well, child, as soon as it was born. However, boom, boom, boom.
He wants to kill his grandfather. He wants to kill him. He wants to kill his dad. What if I talk like this all the time?
Outtake.